What's up guys, it's Josh here, and today I'm going to be talking about the red alert that UN issued to the entire world. I'm talking about how the world is moving towards impending doom if we don't do something about climate change. So watch the entire video to know more about climate change and how the world is going to its certain doom and how we can stop it. So let's just jump right into the video. First of all, in order to know what climate change is doing to the world, we must know what climate change is. Climate change, what could it possibly be? Climate change is the gradual shift in the overall global weather temperature. It is usually the increase in temperature. And since the mid-1800s, us humans have been contributing a lot in the emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane to the atmosphere, which is creating an ever-persistent gradual shift in weather, causing climate change to be a huge problem like it is today. Change in Earth's climate due to human activities, also known as anthropogenic climate change, includes events such as air and sea surfaces increasing in temperature, ocean acidification, and the absolutely absurd and out of the norm rainfall patterns. And this is all the side effect of anthropogenic climate change. And another side effect of anthropogenic climate change is the increased intensity of natural disasters such as the floods, the droughts, and tropical cyclones. These are all the side effects of anthropogenic climate change, which are usually caused by the increased emission of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. The difference between global warming and climate change. These terms are often used interchangeably but have different meanings. Global warming is just one of many aspects of climate change. The term global warming means the average temperature of the globe's surface slightly increasing every time, and this change has been persistent ever since the mid-1800s. And this global warming has been mainly caused by high concentrations of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. Climate change affects severe weather conditions, extreme weather conditions. A lot of the natural disasters and weather conditions that are happening right now, especially the extreme ones like floods and cyclones and storms, have been very much more severe than what they used to be and are on a much more frequent basis. And this is expected to continue all throughout the world. Droughts, the increased temperature which are causing the water in a certain place to evaporate so quickly, and this is causing the soil to be completely dry. And when the soil becomes completely dry, it often loses the water and usually sometimes the minerals too, so the soil becomes absolutely not worth it for agricultural activities. So this is extremely sad. And without a reduction in the greenhouse gas emission by humans, longer-term droughts are said to be causing huge economical problems and also agricultural problems in places such as the Great Plains and the southwest and the southeast of the world. And this is extremely sad, as people who are completely dependent on the economy on those places, and also the people's food who is based on the Great Plains and stuff, they're going to be suffering the scarcity of both money and food. Now let's talk about what the red alert is all about. As the world battles record-shattering heat waves, deadly floods, calamitous droughts, and landscape-shattering wildfires, we are pushed to a spot where we have to act now, because we cannot act any later. The emission of greenhouse gases from fossil fuel burning has pushed us to a spot where we cannot act any later. The bottom line is, we cannot waste any more year waiting for climate change, as climate change is already here, and we have to take any action we have to take right away. Climate is controlled by how much heat has come to the earth and how much of it is released. Due to the breaking of the ozone layer, a lot more heat than what we expected and what we intended to come to Earth, well, just a lot more of it has just came into the Earth. And do you think the same amount of heat has been released or at least very close to it? The answer is no, because we've been cutting down trees. Like trees, when we had them, they were able to at least take in some of the carbon dioxide and the greenhouse gas emissions, take them in, purify them as oxygen, and they were also able to absorb sunlight and such, and it was a good, healthy balance. But nowadays, due to us cutting down trees for, the cities, we need smart cities, but we don't need green areas, because at the end of the day, nobody's going to see a green area and say it's peaceful. Wait a minute. They say that nowadays? Yeah. Green areas were so natural that we didn't really care about them, and now we are in a state where, we cut down all the trees, make all sort of paper, all the stuff we wanted, and now we are actually writing down on the paper and saying we need to save the trees. And that's how bad us humans have been doing. So the climate change has been a real issue due to the balance of the ozone layer and the trees being absolutely out of whack. Just throw them out. They do not exist anymore. So that's the problem, right? The ozone layer is broken down and we are cutting way too much trees. So there's a lot of sunlight that comes in, but due to us cutting down all the trees, there's not enough sunlight that gets released out of the earth. And this is the problem that's creating climate change the hardest. And that's the major issue. If measures are taken as soon as possible, Earth will still be warmer than it was previously. And that's very sad to hear. I'm not saying this to disengage you guys from being like, okay, no matter what I do, nothing's gonna change, right? So why should I even do it? I should live my life to the fullest. No, that's not the point I'm coming at. The point I'm coming at that we need to drop the carbon dioxide amount significantly, even to make a small dent. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about don't do anything, because even if you do anything, it's not going to work. I am talking about do everything as possible to at least kind of contribute to the society. Like, at this moment, scientists say that even if all of the carbon dioxide, tomorrow you wake up and all the carbon dioxide has gone blap, zero, it still wouldn't save the earth from the climate change. Like, it will take well over 100 or 1,000 years to bring that change up. And that's very sad to hear. We took all the nature for granted, we took all the trees for granted, and now where are we in a place at? We are in a place where everything a tree was doing for us, we have to do it, and that will take at least a millennium to be completely recovered. And that's a very tight spot, very sticky situation us humankind are in here. So I would say absolutely try your best to avoid the greenhouse gas emissions from our vehicles and all sorts of stuff we do every day, which I will be talking about later on this video. How to prevent the greenhouse gas emissions and how to conserve the environment. Rising ocean levels. I'm pretty sure you heard about this in the news a couple of times these days, as it is a very common problem. And I will be discussing about rising ocean levels pretty late on this video, so continue watching to know about the rising ocean levels. Now let's talk about the ocean acidification. What is ocean acidification, you ask? Well, it's nothing. Well, it's not technically nothing, but the thing is, the carbon dioxide and methane in the air, all the greenhouse gases in the air, start slowly crippling the H2O formula of the water in the sea, which ends up, so the oxygen in the H2O formula kind of starts getting replaced with the carbon dioxide and methane and stuff, and this turns the ocean to a state where it's very similar to acid, like straight up it's very similar to acid, and this is a problem as even before the ocean water was kind of questionable to drink, like you had to go through some immense filtration process, but now it'll take near no filtration. Like, we don't have the technology to ever filter like these acid filled waters, and that's why these this ocean that have been acidified are called the evil twin of the ocean. I don't know about you, but the evil twin kind of sounds pretty creepy. And the last thing I'm going to be talking about for you guys to know what climate change is and what it affects. It affects our health. Well, I was all talking about the natural disasters and how it could like affect our environment, all that crazy jazz. But if I still haven't told you that climate change isn't a big thing, well, now I'm going to be talking about how it affects our health. And it doesn't only affect our physical health, like natural disasters can cause huge property damage and also take away countless of lives, but it doesn't only affect our physical health, it also affects our mental health. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this section of this video. So the impact on our health. Due to all these climate change and stuff, there's extreme weather conditions us humans have to deal with, and due to this weather conditions and also a lot of pollution in the greenhouse gas emission, there's a lot of diseases that spread through water, air, and all sorts of stuff that you can think of. And these diseases really do hurt us in a much physical way. And thinking about these diseases and thinking and wondering where this world is going to end up makes us think and worry about the world. Like, worrying about the world is not a problem, but when you're over-worrying, you're overthinking and worrying, it really puts a stress on your mental health and really starts thinking about what's going to happen. And especially a loved one usually gets affected by any of these diseases, or if they are feeling down as well, it really puts a huge mental stress on ourselves. And this is how it affects us physically and mentally. News about the climate change is not new to us, guys. You gotta understand that. Climate change has been a problem since the mid-1890s. The first ever quantitative estimate of climate change was in the 1895s. So that's how long of a problem climate change has been. And do you know how many global officials have actually taken pre-measures and precautions to not let climate change wreak havoc? The number is very similar to our bank balances these days actually, and which is 0. Oh god, that's depressing. Yeah, both our bank balance and the thing we are doing about the climate change is super depressing. So that's the problem, right? Like, it's been a problem since 1895, but the global officials haven't really taken any precautions. And to make you guys feel a little more sad, I have another news too. Like, in the 1995, the IPCC said global warming is still a problem, but global warming is mainly contained, and it's usually caused due to the carbon emissions just by factories, and it's not going to cause a huge thing. And do you know what the same IPCC has said in 2020? Us humans are destroying the world. That's what they said. Yeah. We humans have done so many carbon emissions in the past few years. Like, it's just been 25 years, guys. It's just been 25 years. How did this go so bad? What about it turn out? Ooh. Feels stinging, right? And the worst thing is, scientists say that all the memes about the COVID-19 restoring the ozone layer, it will restore the carbon dioxide, it's all going to hell, because you know what? It is estimated that 1.5 billion tons of carbon dioxide alone is going to be released in 2021 and 2022, that it will absolutely negate every single thing COVID-19 quarantine period has done for the ozone layer if this continues on going on. So that's why I'm saying things needed to be taken on our own hands now. We can't look up on the government officials. Like, I have heard so many people be like, well, I'm not in a big position, so why am I even going to care? That's not how you do it. Even a little help, even just taking the can off the road and just tossing it into a bin is going to help the world more than you realize. So I feel like we need to really take things into our hands and finally move as the people to save the world. Now I'm going to be talking about the rising ocean levels alongside the glaciers melting. So the 71% of the earth is actually filled with water. And that's because if you ask anybody in the older generation, like your father, your mother, if you ask them if they know about this stuff, they would say that the world was only 61% of water just 30 to 40 years ago, and that's a big difference. That's the rising ocean levels I was screaming about early on. Yeah, the thing is, the glaciers have been melting in a very, very fast rate. And let me just talk about a simple graph. The earth is 71% water, and in that 71%, of that 71%, 96% is saline seawater, and some of those percent is the ocean acidified, the evil twins. So sack the evil twins off. We don't need the evil twins. And then when we see only 3.5% is fresh water, and in that 3.5%, only 1% is currently able for us to drink. It's our rivers, our ponds, whatever you have, they are our groundwater, all that stuff is just 1% of the water in the entire world. And then the rest 2.5% is slowly tucked in the glaciers in your Himalayas, the Antarcticas, and all that jazz. But the thing is, due to extreme climate change, the glaciers, one of our most reliable water source, which if it goes depleted, it will join with the saline water and absolutely nullify all the freshwater potential. So no water for the future generation, I guess. So that's the problem. If it's melted, no water, no reliable source of water for the future generation. And also, when it's melting a lot, if the water in the ocean starts rising, it causes a lot of animals to lose their habitats, usually the ones that are situated near the sea but aren't sea creatures. Near the sea, but they are not sea-dwelling creatures. And those animals will be losing their habitat pretty freaking fast. And you know what? And cities near the water, like, if I want to make an impactful city, let's even take Chennai. Like, it's super near the water, we got the marinas, all that stuff. And when the glaciers melt, there's a high possibility that Chennai gets submerged too. Like, no place is actually safe. Even if you're in, let's say, Delhi or Illinois, there's still a possibility that due to all the glacier melting and the rising of ocean level and maybe even a little bit of disaster like floods, cyclones, which are extreme and like nowadays it's super severe and much more frequent, those all can cause heavy property damage and also submerge cities, and it is very sad to think about. And the biggest problem, as I already said, is there will be no longer a reliable source of water for us nor the future generation, which is very, very sad to think about, because you can even go without food for a few minutes, like, well, not for a few minutes, but technically you could absolutely go without food for a few days or even a few months, but you cannot go without water and kind of also oxygen, like we are absolutely polluting the air. So it's very sad to think about. So a change is totally needed. We humans have to combine and start doing something about it. Like, as I already said, we should try to drop carbon dioxide percentages as much as possible. Yeah, as much as possible. As I said, it will take hundreds or even 1,000 years to actually be fully recurring to the environment, but the very little help actually helps. Like all the smart puzzles and pieces. Let's take a puzzle for example. A puzzle consists of all the small particles, and when they combine together, they create the bigger picture. And if we all humans combine together and do very, very small stuff, we can create the bigger picture. The bigger picture being a better world for the future generation and also for us. In summary, what am I trying to say? Climate change is real. It has struck us right now, and it is going to get worse unless we take things into our own hands. A lot of man-made disasters and natural disasters are going to get worse, severe, and more frequent unless we take things into our own hands. Humans are responsible, and another thing is the humans are the sole reason, well, not the sole reason, but they are the main reason about widespread all disasters and all the pollution throughout the world. It is very saddening, as us humans in the beginning were actually very productive and doing good to the environment, but in the recent days we have really fallen off that reputation. We are probably the most harm to the environment has ever seen. And another thing is the oceans are warmed up. A lot of times ocean gets acidified, which is very sad because even the salt water was somewhat of a use to us, but when the acidification of the ocean happens and the evil twin pops up, it's going to cause a problem for us. And overall, we are losing the most reliable stuff we ever had, the reliable source of water, the reliable source of maintaining sunlight so that our climate doesn't go bonkers. So we are losing all that. So all in all, we have to take things into our own hands and do what we can to do about the environment, to save the environment for us and the future generation. I'm going to keep on saying that because it is a message that needs to go through even for the most densest of the dense people. This message needs to go through as many people as possible. So at the end of the day, what are all the things we can do to save the environment? Number one, talk to a parliament member in the council and talk about how climate change is real and how a change needs to happen. Number two, well, instead of driving all the way in your cars and your bikes and all the time just roaming around in your cars and bikes, try to take a walk, try to go around on a bicycle, and just try to enjoy yourself both physically and mentally, and at the same time feel good about yourself and think that you're doing something good for the environment. And if you're ever having a plan on buying a new car or another car, try to make it a hybrid car or an electric car instead of the run-of-the-mill, you guessed it, the gas cars. And usually the diesel is the biggest culprit, but who the frick cares? Like, diesel, petrol, both are the same thing. They are really are causing a lot of problems. And I would say little things around your house, like just turning off the lights when you're not using it, replacing your LEDs with other low energy consuming lights, can all go a long way in saving the environment. And also, just overall, try to use less water. I'm not saying absolutely deprive yourself of water. I'm saying just buy like a water efficient shower head or something and just try to conserve water as much as possible. Last but not the least, this is something we all need to do, is to conserve the green spaces. The green spaces around us are the thing that are even trying to keep the little balance with the sunlight rays, the UV rays, and the volt. So conserve it, plant a tree or two, like it's not really that hard, just spend 10 minutes of your life planting a tree and then 2 minutes of your life every day just to water it. Even coming 2 minutes is 4 minutes. What are we doing so busy that we can't spend just 4 minutes of our day doing something good for the environment? And that's all I have to say today. Peace and out. It's Josh. Bye, and hope you guys join your hands and fight against the climate change and bring change so our future generation and also us can have a happy life. Live your life to the fullest. Peacing out is Josh.